As hard as we try to keep our CRM clean, there's going to be leads that go dormant and we need to re-engage them. Using a workflow to power that re-engagement can be one of the best uses of workflows. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do just that. So before we jump in, a couple of things that you're going to need to understand or set as criteria for your workflow are going to be, what do you define as a lead that's ready to be re-engaged? So I'll give you a couple of examples. So in this case, I've got what I call a nurture list created. So in this particular case, we have the lead or marketing qualified lead as the lifecycle stage. Last activity date is more than 60 days ago, as well as a recent conversion, which would be any form submission or any ad interaction. And then we've got their lead status is none of those that we do not want to re-engage. So the worst thing you can do here is actually re-engage people that when they raise their hand, you go, oh, you know what? I actually didn't want to talk to you in the first place. So make sure that is clear. So the nurture list is one way. You could also consider nurturing folks who came to one webinar but never came to another webinar, or so on and so forth. So lots of different ways to re-engage folks. I think that's the biggest question when you're doing a workflow is, where do I start? So again, if you don't know where to start, this is a good place to start. The other thing to think about is, what am I going to say to these people? So in this case, most of the folks that have gotten into our CRM are actually going to be something around HubSpot, something around getting personalized support or learning how to do things. So we've got three specific emails here. Our first one is reintroducing our content library. So perhaps they haven't been back to the website to see what else we have that's new, sharing a popular video with them. And then lastly, asking if they're open to chatting with one of our HubSpot specialists. So those are the three automated emails we have. And let's jump over to our workflows. So to get started, we're going to go from scratch and we're going to use that list criteria as the way to get people into this workflow. So keep in mind this, because it's an active list, and if I turn re-enrollment on, someone can go through this again. I'm not going to do that because I wouldn't want someone to get the same three exact emails. But if you're using this as, let's say, someone who requested a demo and fell off, you may want them to re-enroll every single time they request something and then don't follow up. So keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and build our workflow. So for our data values, we're going to say the list membership is a member of, and we're going to find that nurture list here. There we go. And so now we've got people in the workflow based on that condition. So again, I'm not going to turn this on, but if you wanted to have a re-engagement flow where someone happens to hit an unengaged sort of criteria and they go right into this flow, that would be good. Your content's going to have to be much more evergreen and maybe pushing them toward a meeting than something that can be like, wait a minute, I already got an email about your content library. So in this case, we're going to save and continue. And now I want to make sure they're set as a marketing contact. In the task portal that I'm using here, we're actually going to not see that because this particular case, we don't have marketing contacts in this legacy version of HubSpot, but anything that happens to be new, any net new customer using Pro or Enterprise, actually any level of HubSpot, you're going to run into this marketing contact. So you would need to set marketing contact. And again, you're not seeing this here, but in a live portal with a new installment, you're going to see that as an action. So we will actually send them the first email then. So we're going to say send email to contact, and we're going to select that first one, and the first one being our reintroduce content library. And we've got that set. So we're going to go ahead and click on save. Now that's going to be easy. We got the first email here. Now, what if we don't want to send them another email? Just instead, we want to make sure that if they happen to become a customer, in the meantime, they don't get that email. Well, we could introduce an if then branch, but a better way to do this is to use a workflow goal. So we're going to go to our settings in the workflow. We're going to say meet a workflow goal. So in this case, we're going to make sure that anybody who achieves the lifecycle stage of an SQL, if I could spell lifecycle, the lifecycle stage of SQL opportunity or customer, or if they eventually become other, we could do that as well. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to use this here. So right now, again, they only get into the workflow if they happen to be an MQL or a lead. And then in this case, we're going to send them this email. And if they happen to be an opportunity or an SQL, again, a lot of this is going to be based on how you have that criteria defined in the rest of your HubSpot. So if a form submission makes someone an SQL and they sit in there forever, they may never actually be an MQL. So lifecycle stages, lead status is super important for making sure they get into this workflow, but that goal will pull them right out. So let's add the other emails in here so that we can get those set, and then we'll put some parameters around this. We're going to set our second email to be number 2 video. We're going to save that. And then the third email, we're going to say, let's set a video. Actually, this one is going to be open to chatting. So this is where we're asking them for a meeting, and then open to chatting is here. Okay, so this is going to be our nurture flow. So far, we've got this first email. We probably want to add a delay, so we're going to mark a delay. Let's go ahead and delay for 7 days, and then we will save. Let's delay 2 days again. We can just copy this action and we'll place it here. That makes it really easy. Now we've got 7 days, 7 days, and again, depending on what time of day you want this to go out, you could add a delay here of maybe delay until a certain time of the day. So let's actually delay until 7 a.m., 7:30 maybe, 31. Let's do 31. 7:30 a.m. in the contact's time zone and save. So they'll go ahead and get that email right in the morning. So that's going to be a very basic workflow here. Now, some other reasons you might want to pull them out of this workflow is maybe if they happen to have a very specific page view. So contact properties, let's say last page seen is, and you want to put in a very specific, like we've got a fix my HubSpot opportunity. So this might be something you want to do. So keep in mind all the reasons why you might want to pull someone out of this workflow. If this happens to be in their record prior to getting them in workflow, they will be pulled out as well. So workflow goes really, really important, really helpful. But again, sometimes keep that in mind so they don't get pulled out before they even get their first email. So I'm going to delete this one here. We're going to click on save. So for the purposes of lead nurturing, this is pretty straightforward. We got the enrollments, we've got the nurture, and then we've got two other emails as well. Since we have this workflow goal set up, we'll be able to see when those folks let's go here. We'll be able to see when someone becomes a member of a lifecycle stage. We can actually measure that conversion as a result of this workflow. Now, a couple other things to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and name this workflow. So we're going to call it nurture list workflow, and then list membership driven SQL or MQL and lead only. 3 steps. Okay. So you might have a different naming convention for this. I would highly recommend something a little better than that. But if we review and publish this, they'll run the right-hand side. We'll be able to see how many people then fit that enrollment criteria. In this case, it's going to be 1. So if I hit yes, it would send immediately. If I hit no, obviously it's only going to hit the people who hit this criteria going forward. And because this is an active list, when someone hits any of these criteria, they automatically end up on the list and they automatically end up in the workflow. So keep in mind, we didn't have re-enrollment on, which is possible for lists, but we did not do that. So they're not going to re-enroll. So if they meet this, yes, we do not have right now, since if you did this and you said no, if you have enterprise, you can choose whether or not there's an error if you want to get notified. If you do not have enterprise, that's not possible. And again, we can go through the rest of these here and we can turn that workflow on. So that's about as easy as it goes. If you wanted to, you could add different things in here, like a task. Maybe you wanted to have the sales team follow up and send them a message on LinkedIn. You can do any of those additional actions here. Perhaps you might want to say, go in and ask Breeze to go find any more information about them and deliver that in an email. All those things possible, but for the basics of where people start, really, this is going to be all there is to it. So that's it. That is a re-engagement nurture workflow. Lots more you can do with that. Think about your triggers. Think about why and how contextually what somebody's going to make sense to get from you, and then get to work. For more tips, tricks, and how-tos, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you soon.